Welcome to the Be a Human in Business show with your hosts, Tracy Borison, founder and personal branding coach at TLB Coaching and Events, Tara Argo, founder and relationship strategist at Argo Operations, Tawana Taylor, founder and project management consultant at Bootstrap Dreams, Debbie Aquara, founder and principal consultant at Niche Customer Experience Consulting Firm. Let's start the show.
Welcome to a new episode of the Be a Human in Business show. Today we are talking about the humble side of leadership. And on one hand, we are very sad because we don't have our lovely Debbie with us today, but we do have a phenomenal guest who's going to be sharing his knowledge with us about the humble side of leadership. So we're very happy to have Jeff Clark. He's a dynamic leader who believes in truthful, honest, and humble leadership, which is why this episode is called The Humble Side of Leadership. And he spent over 15 years in the military and government in a variety of leadership positions. And he has discovered through that experience a unique and straightforward, which I think sometimes we don't have straightforward philosophies, a straightforward philosophy to leadership, which we're really excited for him to share with us today. Welcome, Jeff.
Welcome, Jeff.
So we were having some very good conversation before we started recording about diversity and leadership. So I would love to kind of just start off in that space and let's start with Jeff, because everybody else knows we all love to talk, and I'm sure we'll get lots of opportunities to do that. So let's start with Jeff and talk about, like, in your experience, how does being humble play into an acceptance in terms of the diversity of people?
Well, I think it's knowing that, as you're a humble individual, you're not really thinking about yourself. You're thinking about others, and you're there to serve others. It's almost a very preacher-like way of thinking of things. When I show up to work and I'm the boss, or I'm the highest ranking individual in the room, that comes with a lot of weight, and it comes with a lot of responsibility. Some people think it comes with the corner office with the golf clubs and the tea time on Fridays. And, you're wrong. I mean, just flat out, you're wrong. It comes with the responsibility to take care of people, to lead people, and to know when to say, hey, I screwed that up, or this one's on me. Or, really being humble about it, because you don't want to throw people under the bus. You want to lose trust really, really quick. You have those tea times on Friday while everybody else stays till 4:30 or 5, and you throw people under the bus. So when a project doesn't get done, your first thing is to look like this and say, what happened? No, you should have the answers. As a leader, you should have the answers, and then you should have high standards for the people that work for you. So, I like we were saying off air before we started recording, I don't care who you are, where you came from, or anything like that. If I hired you to do a job, I'm going to train you and equip you to do that job, and then I need you to do it. And then you should expect the exact same thing from me.
So with that, let the people know who Jeff is. Let them know where this wisdom that you're dropping, just boom, come right in,
Right.
Dropping wisdom. Let them know more about you and how this perspective happened and why you moved through it.
Real quick, born and raised in Oklahoma. So my parents got divorced when I was like 11, and my mom worked like 3 or 4 jobs. So I was kind of the man in the household for several years until she got remarried. Didn't have the greatest relationship with my dad, so I kind of had to build one up. So I kind of had to learn how to be kind of a man at an early age. And then I had to really swallow my pride when I went to join the military, because I was working at Sears selling refrigerators and lawnmowers. And it was the greatest job ever, because, people came in and said, I need a lawnmower. And I said, which one? And I sold it to them, and I got a commission off of it. And it was easy money. It wasn't great money, but it was easy money. And I was all for doing that, being a professional salesman. And then, my girlfriend at the time looks at me and says, if you want to be serious and start a family, you're going to have to do something more and work at Sears. And I said, well, what'd you have in mind? Because I can't afford to go to college. And she said, well, the military can afford for you to go to college. And I kind of thought, well, you know what? Maybe you need to get lost. because that's we're in the middle of 9/11 and all that stuff. And I was like, you've lost your mind. And she convinced me to go to a recruiter. And I said, I'm only going to the Air Force recruiter because my brother-in-law was in the Air Force. And I liked what they had to say enough to say, okay, I'll do it. And that was kind of the beginnings of making me who I am today, because, my journey through leadership was one where I felt very confident in myself to a point where I didn't exude confidence. I exuded arrogance. And I actually had a chief master sergeant, who's the highest ranking enlisted, person in the Air Force. He came to me, pulled me into his office one day, and it just said, "You're an excellent leader, excellent mind frame, excellent this, excellent that." He's like, "But man, you're so full of yourself." And he just 15-minute conversation. He just knocked me down a few pegs. And then he pulled a piece of paperwork out of his desk and said, this is a letter of reprimand from the base commander for a comment that I made in a meeting because he was wrong. And I told him he was wrong. And we got into a heated exchange. And I said, if you're going to continue to be stupid, do stupid on somebody else's base, but not ours. And he gave me some paperwork for it. I was like, why are you showing me that? He's like, because no matter how experienced you are and how much rank you have and all that, somebody still needs to tell you the truth. He's like, and I'm telling you the truth today. And he really just changed my mind frame. And after that, I had a different outlook on how to lead people and how to take care of people. And I realized that it wasn't about me looking good. It was about making other people look good. And the byproduct of that is success for you and for them. So you got to go about it differently. And that's kind of how I got to where I am today. A lot more to it than that. But I mean, that was kind of how that 15 years of government service and military service started.
Wow. And so I'm piqued. I'm triggered. I see Tara like, let me in there. So from a male's perspective, right? And to acknowledge there's a difference between confidence and arrogance definitely was like, woo, yes. I hope there are so many more men that we encounter in the world that can say that and that share that sentiment, because there is a difference. And not that it's gender specific, but to hear a male acknowledge it, to me, is super significant. And then my question to you, Jeff, is what do you think it was about you, like with your inner you, that allowed you to even be receptive? Because we know pride, right? Pride in that moment could have taken you to a whole nother level of escalation. What do you think it is about your inner you that actually took an adult pause in that moment? I'm sure it looked differently, right? We're reflecting back on the situation, but you said it actually changed you. What was that thing about that inner you, if you could pinpoint it?
I think it was kind of vulnerability, because at the time, we were having our first kid, and my wife wasn't working. She didn't have a college degree, so she couldn't really work. And it was just kind of like I had a lot of pressure on my shoulders, one, to be successful because I had taken this, big leap. And the other thing was we were starting a family. So I kind of felt like I was in a corner where I really needed to hear some things. So it took me a while. I marinated on it for a little while. And I want to say it was like maybe a year or two. And then I went to a leadership school. They sent me to a leadership school early. I wasn't supposed to go for like another year, but they sent me early because I had been selected for a really big assignment. And, that same chief was like, hey, this is us investing in you. And they got me promoted early. And I really saw kind of a group of people rally around me. And I just kind of said, there's a whole lot of people investing in Jeff, and what am I doing to invest in other people? And, that kind of hit me hard, both at work and at home, because I didn't know how to be a husband, and I was a brand new dad, and I didn't know how to do that either, because my parents got divorced when I was 11 because my dad cheated on my mom. So I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I didn't know what I was doing. And my stepdad never wanted to really get too involved and step on anybody's toes. So I was kind of lost. So that heavy of an influence of seeing people really rally around me and invest in me was what really made me go, okay, that's actually how you do it. It's not about the shiny awards and things like that. It's about actually taking care of people. And that's when it kind of changed for me. And I just said, I can still do a lot of things and get a lot of the accolades by serving other people instead of serving myself. So if there was an inner thing, I think it was kind of vulnerability at the time because I really needed some guidance, but I didn't know where it was going to come from or where to ask for it.
Wow, that is dynamic, man. Part 2, ladies. Part 2 with Jeff.
Anytime.
Absolutely. I mean, I literally have chills, and he's talking about taking care of people. Like, I just don't understand how people do not get that. What do you think it is? I just don't get it.
It's a very much a feast or famine type of thing.
Yes.
I mean, if you think about it,
Yes.
the political stability of our country and even other countries changes every handful of years.
Yep.
We're in this vicious cycle, and it just, Tracy knows this because me and her have talked, and I get on my soapbox about politics. And I use some colorful language too, so sorry. Every 2 years, the Senate and the House change, and then every 4 years, the president changes, but they're not on the same cycle. Right. So we have 2 years of trying to figure out who's going to do what. And then the majority changes. And then 2 years after that, the president potentially changes, or at least we go through another whole rigmarole of a campaign and an election and all this nonsense. So, and that's not necessarily what drives it. It's the economy. Mm-hmm. And the culture in our world changes because every couple of years you have people saying, the Republicans are idiots. And then you have, the Democrats are idiots, and white supremacy, this and racism, that, and all this bad stuff gets brought up. So then all these bad feelings get brought up. And then people say, you know what? I'm really only worried about taking care of myself because the world is just a crumbling mess. So I think people have a hard time looking after others because they have no reason to, because the world's blowing up, and we're involved in wars, and, people are just, I think we've conditioned people to be very, very defensive, and that is tough, and then when you try to use facts and talk to people, it's a hard pill to swallow. You can look at certain presidencies and say the economy wasn't so good. And then you can look at other presidencies and say it was great, but the downside was he was kind of a jerk off, and he got us involved in wars or this and that. And we've just become defensive as people. And I think we forget about it. And it's something the veteran community that I really get involved in the veteran community because it's a sad, but veterans really have to take care of veterans because we have a government agency, the Veteran Affairs, that says they do it, but they don't do it well. Well, I can do it better than you can do it. So I think it really needs to be a kind of an honest and humbling type of thing. And we need to look at each other and say, you know what? Tell me a time where the government has really taken care of you like they said they were going to. Because
and I think there's so much focus that we put on other people taking care of us, right? Yes. And it's really interesting from your story, Jeff, because really what your experience is people were taking care of you, not because you asked them to, not because you expected them to, because that is what they wanted to do. They saw something in you and they wanted to invest in you. And I think that happens a lot with governments, is that we're like, well, this is the government's job. The government should fix it. And kind of, yeah, but really the government is in place because of the people, right? Like the people put the government, well, at least where we're all from.
Supposed to be a government of the people.
Right. And so, but there's so much that we can do as individual people to show up and invest in other people and take care of other people. And you're right, Jeff, it's those people like you who help the other veterans, because you're like, I know I can help and I'm not seeing it done the way that I would want to be taken care of. And I can provide that to other people, and you taking it upon yourself to do that. And that is, I mean, that's what this show really is all about, is helping people to see that even if we have governments or other like high level people that they say to us are leaders, that doesn't necessarily make them a leader, right? That means they're like, in essence, the president of the United States is a manager of the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
The president could do very little without asking for permission.
That's right.
we all
And we're waiting
know
on
that there's a big difference between management and
Yes.
leadership. And as every individual person can show up and be a leader of other people, you can show up and inspire other people and help other people and not, and I think, and maybe we could talk about this for a minute, because I know personally for me, when I help other people, and I even like had this conversation with someone on Facebook the other day about discovery calls, and I'm like, it's an opportunity for me to help somebody with a problem that they have, and that's how I treat it, right? And like, I have the opportunity every day to show up and help people, and it feels so good to me, right? Like, so I'm sure you guys will mirror that feeling, but it feels so good to help somebody. And as a past manager, I like to consider myself a leader, but also in a management position in corporate Canada, but it's like corporate America. Watching your people succeed is one of the coolest things about being a leader.
Yeah, I think you have to define what success is. And I think, Tracy, I've said this to you before, but, money is a byproduct of success.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have it backwards, you have it the other way around, where money is your definition of success, you're always going to run against brick walls. You're always going to get those forks in the road, and you're always going to have those stumbles because you're focused on the wrong thing. If you focus on like what you're doing with your coaching, if you focus on helping people and helping them build their brands and expand, there's a two-sided part to success there. One, you're getting to feel that internal gratification and gratitude in your direction that you help people, and two, you're going to get paid for it. And whereas when it's the other way around, and the first thing is money, you're only gunning for money, so that can only make you feel so good. It only lasts so far, and then if nobody is kicking back anything to you saying, I really appreciated you, or, hey, here's another client, or you should talk to Tracy about this. If you're not getting that, then all you ever got was money, and money only goes so far and only buys so much happiness, and I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but happiness is getting pretty damn expensive. So,
Oh, or it could be like very free.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that's the other difference, right? Is there's so many ways that individual people can contribute to other people and bring joy and feel like, yes, it's a different definition of success, but like, man, I know when I can like go into a day and I know that I made a difference for somebody today, that's like way more important for me than like all the 5 and 6 and 7 figure business things that most coaches are offering you. There's like
the amount of impact that you do to someone's life when you do that pays dividends down the road, because you don't know who they're going to meet. You don't know who they're going to mention your name to. And you don't know what could change next. So being a genuine and authentic person, people undervalue that, and they don't realize what it can do. Do you think those guys who became super mega rich people did it because they were just savage businessmen? No, not at all. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, all these guys, half of them didn't even go to college. They don't have college degrees guiding them on how to be a billionaire. They did it because, there was humbling, things along the way. And one of my favorite stories about that is when Steve Jobs, when he was still alive, he invited Jeff Bezos over to the Apple headquarters one time, and he showed him iTunes. He pulled it up on an Apple computer and said, this is iTunes. This is the future of music. Look what I'm going to do. You should do CDs on Amazon. He was trying to tell him what to do with Amazon. And Jeff Bezos could have easily went back to his headquarters office and said, we got to change up the way we're doing things because Apple said so. And he didn't. He actually took that meeting as a sign that there's competition in the water, and I'm going to stick to the course. I'm going to keep doing these. I'm going to keep doing books and doing what I'm doing. And he invented the Kindle off of that meeting. 3 years later, electronic books became a thing. And then the Kindle became one of the biggest e-readers in the history of the world. Like now Bezos is leaving Amazon to go do bigger and better things. He's talking about buying a football team. So, it's about those things that you do to impact people's lives. And in case of, Steve Jobs, he kind of did it without knowing he did it, but he helped create the Kindle because of what he said to Jeff Bezos that day. So, you don't realize the impact you're going to have on somebody's lives and what a simple conversation can do. You don't always have to be selling things to people. And I think that drives me nuts on LinkedIn about coaches, and I get stuff for internet websites and all this stuff all the time. It's just sales. I don't know you, and you haven't gotten a chance to know me. So, you're not invested in me, and we got to invest in people. We got to do a better job of that. And until we do, we're going to continue to fight and have the same problems that we're having because we forgot where the values really lie and where the value is. And that's in people, and that's in connections. And it's not in a dollar value. It's not in contracts, and it's not in sales.
Yeah.
Oh, amen to all of that.
Isn't that good? And it reminds me of something that our Debbie shared on another episode previously, right? Is that we are only as human as our experiences. And so I think it's important for each of us and those of you, who are watching, that when we put an expectation out for others to be better, we have to first be the demonstration. People may not have ever met someone who gave without expectation. People may not have ever seen someone treat somebody, that looks differently, evenly, equitably. People may not have known that you can be catapulted, in favor, in grace, just by being kind. Like, those things are real. Unfortunately, those aren't the things that get promoted openly the most, right? They are the unseen acts, that not enough people get to see. And whether you're going to get any clout or not by it, choose to be, and what we're hearing, and, not to sound like, pun moment, but Jeff decided to be a human,
Yeah.
right?
To tell people the truth, you gotta.
Yeah, to be his kind of human, because people chose to be human. And that's like the definition of love, right? To be able to tell you in truth, even if you're not gonna like it, but they knew it was good for you. That particular, leader knew, I'm going to share this with him because this is going to be good for him. He couldn't control how you received it, but he stepped forward believing that you already have what it takes to be better. You just need it to be activated.
Yeah, and I think the truth is about approach too. You can tell people truth in a lot of different ways. But if you want to be impactful and have it make an impact on an individual, you have to tell it in a certain way. You can't tell it like, the world thinks you should tell the truth, and that people just go, oh, hey, thanks. You have to do it in a way where people will reciprocate it, and they'll understand it, and they'll do something with it. Because you tell people the wrong kind of truth, or you do it the wrong way, and they'll just say, well, that guy was kind of a jerk. I'm not going to listen to him anymore. And it was a waste. So there's a way to be a humble leader and be a truthful leader without being, a jerk, and being rude. And, you want to turn people on to you, not turn them off. And there's a way to do that.
Well, and I think that, when I hear it, I'm like, well, of course that's true. But again, I feel that that's maybe one of those things. If you haven't experienced a leader like that in your own life, then that's just not a piece of knowledge, an experience that you have that then you can make decisions on, right? So I always think of hearing truths in order to actually hear it, not for it to be said and it to bounce off of you, but to actually hear something, you need to be in a specific space. And a leader has a lot of power to help create that space. But without having any kind of idea about who the humans are who are on your team, that's very difficult to do. Because then even if you're creating a space that is very conducive to yourself, if your people don't operate in that same capacity, then they can't absorb your information.
Well, leaders got to create space of the people. You know, and I've seen a lot of bosses come in and they created a space and a culture of theirs. You know, this is mine. I make decisions. I signed on the bottom line. You know, nobody's going to do this in my shop, in my business. And, you know, you know, you're setting a bad precedents. I've never met a successful leader who walked in and said, I, me, you know, this is mine. I did it all. You're not, you know, consult me, blah, 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 you know, and it doesn't work like that. I'm telling you right now. I've been a lot of great places. I've been in some bad ones. And, you know, the best place that I was ever in was a leader who said, this is all mine. It is mine. I signed on the bottom line. My neck is on the chopping block. You guys are not going to screw this up because I'm going to give you the tools you need to do it right. And if you don't have that, you better say something. And if you don't say something, that's where we're going to butt heads. That's where you're going to be in my office and we're going to be talking about a conversation you don't want to have. And he just led from a perspective of, I know what needs to be done because I'm in charge. I need you guys to do it. And then when you have questions, you have concerns, you have feedback, you need things, you need to come to me. And then I go up and I go beating on doors and I say, this is what my people need. And it was the best space I've ever been at because it was very straightforward. He acknowledged that he was in charge and that he was the base commander, but he also acknowledged at the end of the day, you have to do your job right if I'm going to be the base commander. And if this base is going to function. Like you, and if you don't have what you need and you're not telling me what you need, you know, you really need to do that. And he was very much one of those, like, you need to tell me the truth, even if I don't want to hear it, because if I'm not getting punched in the face by, you know, one of my bosses, because you didn't tell me the truth about something, like, have my back and I'm going to have yours. And he did. One specific situation, we had an aircraft mishap and we unfortunately lost 2 pilots. On base. It happened on our runway. And he walked into the room and we're all sitting there getting ready to try to deal with this crisis. And we didn't know exactly what was going on. And, you know, you can't go to the scene of an aircraft incident until it's safe. And so there's a lot of details you don't know. And he walked into the room and he just said, you all are the best at what you do. So go do it. I'm going to get out of your hair. I'm going to go fight off the media. I'm going to go fight off all the generals in the headquarters offices that are calling right now, trying to figure out what's going on. Do your job. I will be back in here on the hour, every hour until we get this figured out. He's like, don't worry about anything else. I've got this. He said, just go do your jobs. I have total faith in you. And then the transformation of the room just changed because it was like, everybody took that deep breath that needed to happen, and we just kind of moved forward. And we handled it the best I think we could, given the situation. But it was kind of that pep talk, and we didn't see him. He came in back in there on the hour, every hour, and he stayed out of our hair and let us do our jobs. And he fought off a lot of things that were going to be a headache. And there's a couple of funny stories behind it regarding how he approached handling the media, but hell of a guy, and he was a leader that just really made me go, okay, that's how it's done. And he'll be wearing stars on his shoulder one day, and he'll be a big deal one day because he has the right mentality, and that was really confirmation of a lot of things.
Absolutely. It reminds me, as you were speaking, it prompted me to go to, took a note from a devotional by Mark Batterson. And he said, take proactive measures today that will produce desired outcomes tomorrow. And I'm like, speaking my language.
Yes.
Right? As an enterprise project consultant, I joke all the time, right? As a project manager, I tell people the most I could do most times was snitch, right? There's not a lot of coercive power. There's not a lot of formal authority, which to me is not leadership in the first place, right? Me having the ability to threaten you to do something, that does not garner respect. That does not build rapport. That does not promise that you won't sabotage, even though there's going to be an unintended consequence, right? So by you being a person that people knew you know, that leader that you as now present, right? But even the leader that you were talking about, like him stepping in because he gave his people the autonomy to deploy and take action, to not be underutilized, to function in their zone of genius, understanding we can get more done together than one of us, you know, trying to take ownership of all of it. Doesn't make sense. That's why we're all here. That's why all the job descriptions were written, posted in the vacancies field. We all have, right, a value to give. So as you're talking, I'm just like,
Well, if you look, like, I've always kind of thought of leadership like a maestro of an orchestra. You can't tell me that maestro knows how to play every single instrument and he's perfect at it, because that would be a lie. I mean, I'd be willing to bet 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, maestros have never touched certain instruments. Now they're very, very knowledgeable about music and tone and all that stuff. That's why they're the maestro, and that's why they wrote the music. But they still rely on those expert musicians to play their instrument perfectly. And if he doesn't like the way something sounds, he communicates that and says, I feel like the pitch is low or it's flat or whatever. I want it to sound more choppy or whatever you might say.
yeah.
He's just giving direction. There still has to be execution on the expert's side. So as a leader, your job is not to come in there and be an expert. And I think that's where half the people get it wrong.
That is exactly.
They try to walk in the room and be the knower of all things. And you lose credibility when you do that, because you don't walk into the accounting office and say, all right, guys, we're going to start doing it like this and that and budgets and all this stuff. Have you ever done it before? You haven't even taken the time to explain yourself. So, you know, my approach on that is, you know, as a leader, sometimes you need to shut up and listen. And it's just as simple as that.
And to be honest, Jeff, like, I don't want to be the expert at everything. I never have wanted to be the expert at everything, because
you just can't be. No one person can be expert at everything.
I don't want that responsibility.
You're exactly right. And something that you said earlier, like, for me, I believe the key really to life, really in general, business, everything, is genuine and authentic connections. Like, that is so very important. But something else that you said, and I found this in myself when I got to come into kind of some leadership roles, was that I knew that if I supported my staff and I gave them what they needed, they would make me successful. So it was no longer about me when I came into those roles. I gave them the autonomy to be who they needed to be. And I always wanted to encourage them for professional growth, for personal growth. Like, it was very important to me. And I think that it sounds like that's a lot too of what you saw in your leader, that, you know, people will follow those types of leaders. They're attracted to them. They just look at things in a completely different light. And so I'm wondering too, if there are people that are watching that maybe are finding themselves in the position of, wow, like, I'm not that humble leader that I really want to be. Like, what would you say to them?
Well, I think it's actually very simple. So don't overthink it. You know, and I'm a simple-minded type of person. So I have a business degree. I'm working on my doctorate in business. So I know business, I know management. I do not know childcare. So if I'm put in charge of a childcare center, and I have, so I'm speaking by experience. I was the operations manager for a very large squadron in the Air Force. And we had a hotel, 3 daycare centers, a bowling center, a hotel, or a club with a kitchen and a ballroom, human resources, accounting, the whole 9 yards. I don't know anything about childcare. I know nothing. So as one of the leaders there, somebody who other people are accountable to, you know, the chief of the daycare center and the managers there would look at me and say, hey, what do you want us to do? And I would always say, I don't know. You tell me. You owe me as an individual an answer, but an answer in a way that shows that you are an expert, because that's why I hired you, and that you educate me. And then I can make educated decisions. But if I'm relying on you to be an expert, go be an expert. Don't look at me like I know everything, because I don't. But there's specialized people out there, and that's why I hired you, because I need you to tell me what is good and what is bad. Break it down. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about with childcare, because I hired you as an expert. Because if I knew everything, I don't need you as an expert. I wouldn't be paying you the money and you wouldn't exist. So simplify it.
Yep.
Don't overthink it.
Mhm.
Sit the experts in a room and tell them that you guys are supposed to be smarter than me.
Mhm.
I don't know everything you do, especially in very diverse organizations.
Mhm.
You know, you can't look at any CEO and say, do you know exactly what's going on in every nook and cranny of your buildings? Because they'll tell you no. I guarantee you every single one of that's humble enough will tell you no.
Humble enough.
But they'll tell you, I have meetings with some really smart people. Like Elon Musk has admitted it before. I've heard him say it. I don't know enough about space, but I hire people who do, and they have to give me briefings, and I trust them. And that's as simple as that. You're never going to be a knower of all things. So why are you trying?
That's right.
But you know, another thing that just triggered me is that if you're asking for people to give you that feedback, you have to be willing to take it in. That's the other huge key. Like if you really want to be a humble leader, you need to be able to receive that as well.
I think my biggest thing that I ever said to myself and to other leaders, I said, you need to shut up and listen. You need to just shut up and listen, because when you're in a room full of people who you hired to do a lot of different jobs, you should be the last person speaking. You should be asking questions, and you should have provided them information ahead of time to tell them, these are my expectations. So when you come to a meeting with me, this is what I expect at a minimum. And then anything else after that is you keeping me in the loop as a boss. Because if I go into another meeting with, the higher ups, I want to be armed to the teeth. And that's because you set me up for success, because I set you up for success. It's a two-way street. And so many, and I say bosses because bosses are not leaders. So many bosses sit there and go, well, the easy excuse in a big meeting is to say, well, my folks didn't tell me that. Okay, you are a piece of trash, and go take yourself out right now, because that's a horrible excuse. The answer should simply be, I don't know, sir, ma'am. I'm going to follow up with my folks, and I'm going to get back to you. And we are going to give you an answer, because, I've been that leader that was sitting in a room and I had somebody tell me, well, I don't know, my folks didn't tell me. And I said, that's your fault.
Yep. I don't like an excuse.
You
Well,
can
and I
throw your
think,
folks
like,
on the bus all you want to. I'm
when
mad
I think of humble, like being humble, the phrase "I don't know" really stands out, right? Like that can be hard for people to say, but like it's one of the characteristic factors, I would say, of a humble leader, being able
and
to
you have
say
to learn
that
how
I
to
don't know.
build people, because it's okay to say, I don't know. And then you teach them, well, if you don't know, go back and talk to your people and then get me an answer.
Right.
And
That's
let's figure this
exactly
out
what I
together.
always did.
But
It's
if
actually liberating.
you keep coming back with, I don't know, then what are you doing? Why do I have you if you never know anything? So then it evolves, and you got to teach people. You got to mold them. Sometimes you got to take their hand. And my bowling center manager was like that. I don't know. And I look at him and say, Tom, why don't you know? Like, I hired you as a bowling center manager. You have all this bowling experience, but you constantly tell me I don't know. So we got to figure out what the problem with that is, because I need you to know. Or you're on the business side of things. If you constantly don't know, well, then there's no value in you. And that's a problem. That's a very, very large problem for everybody involved. I want you to have value. I want to be able to look at you and go, I don't know anything about bowling, so you need to tell me. But if you constantly tell me you don't know, then why the heck did I hire you? Why do I have you? So how are you finding those answers? What are you doing to find that knowledge and share it? And there's that aspect of leadership that people just don't realize, that, you really have to invest in people. If you really want it to work, you have to invest your time in people. And sometimes it's going to feel like you're wasting your time, but you don't know the dividends it's going to pay later on. And assuming, there's that old saying, assuming makes an ass out of you and me. So why are you doing it? Don't do that. Assume it's going to pay off, and that's why you're investing the time. And it's just, I ran into a lot of people that were like that, and that was something I always did, was I always invested in people. And I said, if you don't know where are the resources at, let's find the resources. Let's get you in the know, because this isn't a good look.
Right.
Well, and help them become confident. A lot of times that's the other thing too, is they don't feel the autonomy to be able to make decisions or be confident. And so therefore they just crumble. And it's like, You know,
Don't be afraid to be wrong. So
Yeah.
I've just, you know, much stuff I've said wrong in my life. Golly, I could have made a living off of being wrong. You know,
And that's a lot that has to do with the space, right? Like if
Yeah.
you have a safe space for people to be wrong.
Right.
And
be wrong.
I tell people that all the time, right? Like there's no human who is right 100% of the time. There's
No.
nobody who made no
That's right.
mistakes, right? So you have to assume you're gonna make one at some point.
Do you know how many
And the
rockets
point is-
Elon Musk has blown up? He's
Oh,
blown
And you
up
know
goodness.
how much
rockets.
those things cost?
Yeah, SpaceX has been around since the early 90s. The early 90s. We're talking almost like 30 years. Almost 30 years SpaceX has been around. You know how many rockets he's blown up? He's blown up tons of rockets. At one point in time, NASA and the government was going to cut ties with him because he was actually helping them lose money.
Helping them lose money.
He was wrong, but look at him now. Look at what he's doing now. He had that vision to see it through and said, I'm going to be wrong. I mean, he's still wrong now. He blew up a rocket the other day.
Yeah.
Again, you know, something was wrong then in the whole process, or whatever went wrong was wrong. But you have to be afraid to be wrong. You have to dare to be wrong. And I think if there's a difference between being wrong because you took the risk, you took the steps and said, I'm going to be bold. And then there's a difference when you're wrong because you're lazy.
That's right.
And it was easier to be wrong than it was to do the hard work to be right. So there's a balance there. But I think you gotta be wrong. You gotta dare to be wrong, and then look at it when you are wrong and say, what happened? Why were we wrong? What broke? Because trying to be right all the time is a whole lot of worthless work.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, something that's really funny that you guys will find funny is I worked in education prior to starting my own business. And when I would travel Oklahoma, the kids would ask me questions that kids are so brilliant, but they would ask me questions sometimes that I couldn't answer. And you know what I did? I said, you know what? I don't know the answer, but I'm going to go back to my office. I'm going to find the answer. Then I'm going to email your teacher and let you know. And that's exactly what I did. And I wasn't afraid to tell them I didn't know. That's not my specialty. What they were asking about was not my specialty. And that's okay. You know, but you're right. You have to be okay with that.
You have to be okay. And then allowing the people. So like I hear us saying, you know, with being humble, we talk about, okay, be willing to receive, right? And then be willing to listen. Then the other part of that, the doer part in me, right? The project management consultant is like, now allow the people to activate in what you've heard, right? Now, we're not going to be able to do all of it. We're not going to be able to accept everyone's idea, but I have heard, right? And we have considered wherever the decisions need to be, and allowing people to move in, right? Move in those decisions, because what is great about always giving your idea or your opinion, being asked, nothing happening though, right? Haven't you been in those work environments where they're always asking for your feedback and you never see any of it?
Well, then they use the word we wrong, and they say, well, we've considered it and we're not going to do it. Okay, who's we?
Right.
Tell me who we is, because I feel like we is you.
And that's just about being like transparent as well, right? Like I remember having lots of those conversations like, okay, this is the problem. I want to hear everybody's ideas. I'm going to make the decision. Once we've heard all the ideas, I'm going to make the decision. So this is your expectation.
Well,
we're going to make the best decision by everybody sharing their ideas.
I've literally had to pull all the experts in a meeting before into a conference room, and I say, okay, this process is broken. We're not leaving this room until it's fixed. So fix it. Start talking. And they all looked at each other, and I sat back in my chair and I said, go on. You're the experts. Start talking to each other. You want transparency? Here it is.
Here it is.
You got it. I just told you it's broken, and now I'm putting all the experts in the room. Fix it.
Yep.
Oh, you can't, because you don't know how to talk to each other.
Yep.
And you're expecting we to fix it. And I'm not here to do that. I'm here to put you guys together, and we are going to fix it, because I don't want we to be a hollow word. And it can be, like I said, your boss stands in front of you and says, you know what, we considered your ideas and we decided we're not going to do them. Okay, who's we? Or was it just you saying, well, that's a stupid idea. I'm not even going to mention it to my boss because, I'm not even going to go with the flack. Well, you're a bad leader, because I've taken a lot of bad ideas to my bosses before and been like,
Mhm.
this is an okay idea. It needs a lot of work, but I think it has potential if you do the right thing. So let me tell you, knowing, and I've taken some ideas to some bosses before that they said, that's a stupid idea. But
But
check this out. It gave me an idea on this,
right.
and it sparked something new, and it did a lot of good. And, I went back to people and I told them that feedback. Said, listen, yeah, your idea, no. But it gave a lot of inspiration,
Mhm.
and a direction that we're going to move in was influenced by you.
Mhm.
So don't stop coming up with stupid ideas, because
Mhm.
you don't know what it's going to do. And again, your definition of success, you need to understand your definition of success, because, if you were to look at my success percentage of my ideas throughout my career, I bet it's easily less than 50%.
Mhm.
But if you were to look at the amount of ideas that it sparked, or motivation that it sparked, or inspiration that it sparked, I bet it would be pretty high, because again, the point is not to be right. The point is to inspire and to lead, because again, you're not the expert, like what we talked about. You're not the knower of all things. So what are you doing to inspire others and use and abuse others? That's why I always told my folks, that I was in charge of it. Listen, I'm going to use and abuse you until you cry uncle, because, you are supposed to know more than me in this particular thing. I've never ran a hotel before, but I know money. So when I'm seeing that you're losing money, I expect an answer. Like, tell me why you're losing money. Make me understand this. And I'll go in front of the boss on the red carpet and tell him why. But you got to help me. You got to help me understand why. And, I'll take the punches in the face all day long, but you gotta help me understand why. And I think you really gotta invest in people.
Yeah,
You really got to.
You got to. That is so good. That is
Yeah,
so
I'm hearing so much about trust, right?
Trust.
Like
huge.
you got to trust that you have a safe place. You got to trust your leader to listen to you. You have to trust that you're not going to get in trouble for a quote unquote stupid idea. Right. And the thing is that what I love about conversations is that ideas can come from anywhere, right? Like everybody's got a different perspective. Everybody hears everything a little bit differently, and therefore you can take, like, someone can take any old idea and turn it. Jeff Bezos can take just one idea about iTunes and turn it into a completely different product, right? Like, because everybody's brain works a little bit differently, and those conversations are where most of the genius comes, by getting brains in the room. And I know I have an experience where, like, I was in middle management, and at it was for a furniture company, and so you have the whole delivery thing, and all the VPs were making these big decisions about what the guys in the trucks should do, and the guys in the trucks were like, what is that? That's a terrible idea, because blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they're in the trucks, they're experiencing the thing, and nobody asked them, right? Like 0 people asked the people doing the job whether or not this new system was going to be something that's going to actually help them do their jobs. And it's like, that is just, again, like the leaders thinking that they know they have all the answers, they've done the research, and they can just figure it out. But that's not the humble side of leadership. That's the arrogant side of leadership.
Boy, your
Yeah.
team. Listen to your people.
Yeah, they get mad because something's more expensive, and well, this device is more expensive. Yeah, but it cuts off time, and my goal is to get my people out of work by 5 o'clock every day, because they have lives, and lives matter. And if they're not getting home till 7:30 at night, and then they're 2 hours behind on everything, chores, dinner, kids' homework, stuff like that, and they're not going to bed till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're waking up at 5 to come work for you, that's a vicious cycle. And it's not a cycle that anybody can easily pull themselves out of, because you have your hand in the cookie jar, and you're too involved as an employer. And I know a lot of employers that will say, well, we work hard until the job is done. That's fantastic. You got to know your limits, and if you're the big wig CEO on the board and all that, and you say no to something, you owe the people that you said no to an explanation, because no is a full sentence, and no is a devastating word, especially if it comes just as no, N-O, period. So it sends a lot of mixed signals. Hey, my idea was stupid. They think I'm an idiot. I'm not worth their time, blah, blah, blah. You owe it to people when the answer is no, to provide an explanation, because you don't know what they're going to come back with. And that was kind of always my policy was, hey, listen, we're not going to do this right now. The answer is no. Here's why. And then they said, well, actually, I had some other things that we were working on that we thought would work better. We just thought they were too expensive. Okay, let's have a different conversation now, because, if we never talked money, well, let's talk money. Well, what is this going to do? Give me the pros and cons, because you need more money. I'll go ask for more money. I'm not afraid to go ask for more money. This is the government. There's money somewhere. I know so. I look at my paycheck every 2 weeks. They've got money. They take it from me. So, we can ask for more money and do the right justification if you have the right leaders above you to understand that. But, that drives me nuts. I was on kind of a consulting thing a couple weeks ago, and one of the big leaders there said, we said no to this, program. And that's all he said. And I was like, well, why? Well, we just, we didn't like it. Well, what did you tell to your people? We told them we didn't like it. We told them, no, we didn't like it. Where was the follow-up conversation? Oh, we didn't have one. It just died. It just ended. I said, well, that was a mistake.
Yep. Because it doesn't die for everybody, right?
Yeah,
Just because the leadership is that's done. Like, you're right. Those people sit there and think, oh my God, now I've made a fool of myself in front of my superior. And now I'm not going to tell him any ideas because they don't like my ideas. And then everybody loses because you don't get the ideas. I actually I had a manager in my experience who was more of the, like, when you ask why, it's like, well, you don't need to know that. I'm sorry, what? I asked because I need to know that, right? Not because necessarily I need to know what to do my job, but for my own mental well-being, I need to know that. Like, oh no, you don't need to know that. Okay.
I'm sorry. Do you work in the CIA? Yeah. Do you work in a secret building?
It was.
Why are we keeping secrets here? Why are we keeping secrets here? And
there shouldn't be anything. I just feel like when I was in, and I feel I am in a leadership role, even though right now I run my own business and it's just me, but I can lead other people in different capacities. But when I was a manager, there was nothing that was off base for my people to ask me about. Yeah. And sometimes those things are really, really difficult conversations, but the value of having those difficult conversations, like you said, it's investing in other people. The dividends always pay off.
But let's talk about the dumb ideas right now. Me and you. Let's talk about them now and make them great ideas, and then present them up for approval because we have a solid product. Let's work together. Let's invest the time. Let's not just throw a dart at the wall and be like, well, let's talk to the boss about this one today. Let's make a good product, because the last thing you want to do is take a product up that gets told no, because then people who came up with the ideas will eventually say, nobody listens to me. Why am I here? I mean, why do you think Microsoft and Apple and Amazon and Google and Facebook and all these tech companies came to rise? It wasn't because those same people are still working there. People leave all the time and they go to other companies. That's why other companies have blown up, because, well, listen, you think my idea is dumb? I'm going to go over to Apple, and then they're going to believe in it. That's why everybody has one of these, except for Tracy.
Right? And I like to flip the script on no, right? Because sometimes we take no too personally, and it's not necessarily about us. Like Tracy mentioned, we're going to make the best decision for whatever it is, the outcome that we're trying to achieve. And I like to encourage leaders, individuals, all shapes and sizes, creeds. No can be an acronym for next opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. And you led into that a bit, Jeff. You was like, okay, well, no, we can't do it right now, but it did pique interest. It did trigger an idea towards something that may be better and that will get us closer to the direction that we want to, to go in. And so but let's get the team together. Let's bring together some more ideas. Okay, money, we didn't consider money before, but now let's if money weren't a factor, right? Or if time wasn't a factor, what else could we do with this? And I would always encourage my teams. I'd go to the directors and say, all right, who do you have? Who do you have to assign to this initiative, right? Who do you have that you can trust to do this? And then I'm not asking them, what can I do or what can we do? I'm going to ask them, what can't we do, right? What are the absolute things that you believe we cannot do? What are the rules, the regulations, the laws or whatnot that we cannot cross so that we can go wildly crazy in the other direction or get as close to them as we can to bring forth a resolution, right? Like there's freedom and boundaries. And so when you say no, and when you set an expectation, set a reasonable expectation, and you allow the people to operate in their proficiencies, and then you come back and say no, okay, I'm saying no to that, not no to you, the person, right? I'm saying no to that. What else did you think though? Right? Like what else can we do? How else can we leverage this opportunity? Because apparently there's a need.
Well, sometimes no is simple too. It's like, listen, no, because did you think of this? Like, it's like the example of the movies that came out on the same day as the Titanic. Nobody had a good discussion at those other movie studios and said, this might be bad timing. Mm-hmm. Let's push it a month, right, where everybody has a chance to see Titanic. And then, the attention becomes on us. Like Dave Chappelle released a movie on the same day as the Titanic. How dumb was that? So it's not that the movie was dumb. And if you've ever seen that specific movie by Dave Chappelle, it is kind of a dumb movie, but that was the point of the movie, was kind of be dumb. But look what you went up against, a blockbuster. At the time, it was the highest grossing movie of all time. You stood no chance at all. Mm-hmm. And it was probably because somebody didn't have the guts to say, hey, I'm not saying no, I'm saying not right now. How about we push it a month? And
that's the thing.
let's think a little smarter on this, because I've gone back to people and been like, listen, the answer is no, but it's no because we didn't think of this. And historically, it wouldn't be a good time to do this, but next spring it would be amazing. And everybody loved the idea. We just don't love the timing. That's and then right. It's no, but it's not no. It's no, but push. Let's adjust and let's keep going, because sometimes you're not going to think of everything. And that's why when we used to have big planning meetings, I brought everybody in the room, even if they didn't say anything. And I had managers complain, well, this is kind of wasting my time. And I was like, well, you're getting paid, so you're going to attend. Okay. Because I need you there in case something happens that we didn't think of.
That's right. It makes sense. That's the flip. So Tracy, Tara, any more gold nuggets that you would like to add to this awesome, fiery conversation?
I feel like we've had like 967 gold nuggets. So I'm gonna save the more for the next episode.
We don't want
nugget
people. We don't want to exasperate the people.
It was, it was so
like those
good.
Experiences where you have to like dig for golden nuggets. Here we just like throw golden nuggets at you for an hour.
Oh, you can put your basket up.
Yes.
Yeah, this was such a wonderful conversation.
And catch all the nuggets.
This was a really great conversation, and it's something that really needs to be had. It was a conversation that, I wish that more people would come to the table to discuss. So I'm hopeful that, lots of people will listen to this and gain and use those golden nuggets. And thank you, Jeff, so much for an incredible conversation.
Yes, thank you. And drop in the comments. Let us know, what are your thoughts on leadership? What is leadership to you, right? And we talked a lot about trust. We talked a lot about listening. We talked a lot about receiving. We talked a lot about doing. Let us know what leadership is to you, right? And how you may even have a differing opinion about right? Some of the things that we expressed. So Jeff, with all this leadership wisdom and knowledge that you have shared, please let us know what good things you have going on, how you are able to give more of this, make it more accessible to the people because they want it. How can they get it?
I heard there's a book coming out.
Yeah, so I am writing a book. I have a publishing deal to write a book called Hear These Truths. It's the ultimate guide to building your leadership algorithm, and it's putting together the pieces, the effort plus a process and how you get the progress. And it's a lot of the conversation we had today. I don't have an exact date for it, but I drop a lot of nuggets like that regarding kind of what the book's going to be about on social media. So you can go find me on social media, on LinkedIn, and I drop a lot of stuff there. I do some one-on-one coaching. I'm pretty picky about who I work with, just because, I don't do it for the income. I do it for the impact and what I'm trying to do for people. And it's nothing against anybody who does that for money at all, because I respect it. I kind of do it because I want to. So I'm always open to conversations and shows like this. I've been on a couple of podcasts, a couple of shows, and I am an open book. So I work my schedule around helping others out. So anytime, any social media platform, the book's coming out, and hopefully I can get. I'm aiming for a Christmas time release. We'll see.
That is the expectation, and you guys can pre-order it.
Yes, I'm rebuilding my website now to be a little more friendly, and it'll come up with some really, really cool stuff for a pre-order and some bundles and some other type of swag and things like that you can get a little bit more of it. That'll be out later this year, but I'm really excited for that because it's going to look pretty awesome.
Great gifts. Great.
Yeah, and if you want like sneak peeks of Jeff's swag, I've been seeing the sneak peeks on LinkedIn. It's some pretty cool swag.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to check it out. I'll be connecting, Jeff.
Yeah, I got a couple of coffee cups. I actually ordered more than I was supposed to. Fat fingered it, and so I probably gotta sell them and get rid of them or give them to people, because my wife saw the box come in. She was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Well, it's supposed to be like one coffee cup." And it was like 70.
Oh.
So if you need a coffee cup, contact Jeff.
Yeah,
I love it, and I love coffee.
That one up. Yeah, so she was
fellow Oklahoman over here.
Yeah, she was like, "What are you gonna do with those coffee cups?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna get rid of them." Clearly.
Absolutely.
Do you ship to Canada?
I will if you want one.
That sounds great. Tracy.
All right, that's it for us today. Thank you again so much, Jeff, for joining us. We will be back with Debbie in a couple weeks' time for our next episode. So stay tuned, subscribe, because I always forget to say that. Subscribe if you like what you hear. Comment below. We'd love to know what you guys think of leadership and the humble side of leadership. And until next time, remember, be a human.
Be a human.